So everyone, just tried this weekend to make a surprise by trying to start the engine video, but I figured out yesterday night while I was wiring it that it was a 6-volt system. So yeah, I can understand myself and you. So luckily the starter is already swapped to 12 volts. Somebody did that before. I have only to change this little boy here, and all the problem is, you can say, why you don't buy a 6-volt battery, because all my lights, my gauge, my everything, spark plugs, I don't know, is sparks are 12 or 6 volt, but all what I bought for this car already and what is already installed inside it runs on 12 volt. Even to buy a 6-volt battery and swap everything, the 6-volt battery here costs about the double of 12-volt battery, and I have already bought a 12-volt battery, so it won't work. So I had to figure out something else. Problem is the alternator of this engine that came with this engine is already 6 volt. So what should I do? I googled how far can this car run without an alternator, without charging the battery. It can drive till 150 kilometers. What this one will never do, because it's not street legal, and it's just trailer queen that drives to the shows. It's a show car and runs around, out there, or maybe a little race if it will be go fast enough, to make some races. But anyway, I don't need an alternator. I can buy one. It's pretty expensive. I didn't find one that works that's less expensive than the original or the swap alternator for this engine. I just checked other cars and stuff. You are not less than 100 euros. So I thought about letting down and keeping it without alternator, but I came up with an idea that I can explain. I have this cooling fan here for engine. This pretty strong one, had 2 speeds. I removed the motor of it. I mounted it here, connected it to this drill machine and to a light bulb from a car. And check this out. Before I did that, I tried it with the voltmeter and it showed me 12 point something volts. I don't know if it's enough to recharge the battery, and I don't know what the engine RPM is comparing to this drill machine. It produces already 12 volts. It lies pretty bright here, but if it's enough to recharge the battery, I don't know. And anyhow, the car will just run some short distances and get shut down and then restart, and you won't be able to recharge it anyway, even if you put the best alternator out there, most expensive. So it's bullshit. So I'm not gonna use one. Anyhow, I thought about putting or modifying this motor and making it as an alternator, just because of one thing. First of all, this drive belt here is the water pump, and this is what comes from the engine, or the engine itself. I didn't find a much shorter drive belt that's just enough for this 550 millimeters. They are all about 700 and something, so we'll have much extra, So I thought about really making that little motor here, putting it here, and using the original belt that came with the motor, and maybe that engine, or that, how to call it, motor or alternator, will be not enough to recharge my battery, but maybe it's enough to run my lights, my gauge, all the electric stuff that and goodies that I have on the rat rod, so, and that will help me save more battery. That's the idea behind that. So I'm just gonna discuss that with my neighbor, who is my big help for the electric and mechanic work, because I'm not a mechanic. I can make a little bit of welding and body work, but mechanics, I know I rebuilt this engine by myself. I'm installing it by myself, but some stuff like adjusting the valves and doing the big things, I will let him play, so yeah. So that's what I wanted to say, and it's a disappointment first of all because I couldn't make the video. I thought I will have much more expenses repairing that and reconverting that to 12 volt or converting that to 12 volt. But the good thing is that the most expensive part is the starter is already 12 volt. Even I heard that the 6 volt will run on a 12 volt battery, but you shouldn't run it longer time to start, just make stops between, or it will burn down. So, but luckily we don't have to care about that. I have 12 volt already built in. I bought this boy here including shipment 15 euros. I don't need an alternator, or maybe I will take that motor that I have already here, and yeah, we're good to go. So still waiting next week. It just became if I am lucky enough and that part here comes, so I reinstall that, and maybe next weekend, I'm not promising anything, but maybe next weekend we will put the camera here and try to start the engine. Fuel tank is the 6 volt alternator. Fuel tank is already done. I used the old cap from the old tank, and even the hose to the front. I have a fuel pump here, so I'm thinking about putting a filter out there on the firewall and maybe running the hose to the filter, and then from the filter to the fuel pump, and then to the carburetor here. I don't know where it goes here, I think, yeah. And yeah, I'm just figuring out a little after little, or slowly how to call that. A long time I haven't made any video in English, so that's why I don't find the words sometimes, but need to watch more movies. Yeah, thanks for watching again, and see you next time. I don't know if I showed you already my Trabant old steering gear system. I just reinstalled it because all that stuff that I was making here didn't work. It looked ugly and didn't work. Here, rubber and rubber, and check this out. Like if I have power steering, I can. But the other one, even if the car is on the gravel, it won't turn. It was pretty bad. Yeah, so that's it. See you next time. I don't promise next week.